Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. So today is a very exciting day because, as you can see over here behind me, 3 big boxes just arrived at my doorstep literally about 30 minutes ago, containing 150 copies of my first zine. I decided to, publish a zine, and actually let me back up. If you've never been to my channel before, thanks for being here. I recently traveled out to Eastern California to do some photography out there. I mostly do landscape photography, but I just became fascinated and captivated by this small town named Keeler that's out there near Death Valley. I ended up doing a fair amount of photography there, spent some time there. All 150 copies sold out in less than 48 hours, which was very shocking and surprising to me, and exhilarating and awesome. And thank you for your support. And I greatly appreciate it to those of you who bought one. And I'm sorry to those of you who weren't able to. I had some people email me asking if they're, if they still could, and I had to, just say no, because I obviously have a limited number, but things to learn from for the future. So anyway, in this video today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some information about, how I designed this book, the work that went into it, where I got it printed, and, all that good stuff in case this is something you're interested in doing for yourself. And I'm also going to get into the financials. How much money did I make or didn't make from doing this? Okay, so first of all, the classic definition of a zine. Oftentimes when people think of a zine, they think of just like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, folded in half, and then you have like a little book like this. If I were printing portrait images, like, maybe this would be a cool format, but what I really wanted was something more like this, and without the spine up here at the top, but rather on the side over here. So it was more of like a landscape orientation. So let's hop over here into InDesign. I'm going to show you the document. So I designed the zine using InDesign, and this is the cover, and this is the back, and then this is the spine here in the middle. And as you can see, I just ran the cover image over the spine because, as much as I would love to like put some type on the side here, it's not quite tall enough for that. Like the point size would have been too small, and it just would have been, kind of smudgy looking. So I didn't do that. I just ran the image over the spine instead. And obviously, this has a full bleed. The bleed, is what you see with the red line around the inside. And then this inner line here, that is, where that's like the trim. That's where it's actually going to be cut. So you want the images and everything to extend beyond a little bit, so that it can be cut. Then this is the inside of the book. So the inside of a book is a separate document, starting with a blank page, and then this, and then I did a full bleed image here, just kind of like an establishing shot. And then, the design of this, I decided to do something just very clean, very simple, by having just images on the right side of the book. I think it could have been visually interesting to have like opposing images, to have facing, photos, one on the left and one on the right. But, when you do that, then you start getting into the relationship between the photos. Then at least I think there's some expectation there that the two connect in some way, that there's some kind of inherent relationship there with the subject matter. As much as I wanted to do that left and right thing, I just ended up just not doing it and just going with, a clean, simple layout like this. And, obviously I did this with facing pages here as part of the layout. And then, I did another full bleed here in the middle. All of the images in here, they were all converted to CMYK. I pretty much edited everything in the ProPhoto RGB space. Did some soft proofing in Photoshop to see what they would look like. I also applied a little bit of like a shadow and a blacks bump with an adjustment curve to each one of the images, because when you print, ink is different from, viewing an image on screen. When you view an image on screen, it is backlit, it is illuminated. So I've just gotten in the habit now of just, when I feel good about an image and I think it's in the right place, I'll just bump the blacks and the shadows a little bit just to be on the safe side. So then once I designed everything in InDesign, both the inside of the book and the cover, well, then it was time to print the book. And I looked around at a number of different options, and place that I came across that worked just really well for me with this project was a place called Mixam. I am so glad that I found Mixam, because they truly made this really easy and really straightforward to do. I especially like the fact that from like a design and user experience perspective, when you come to their homepage, the main thing that you see here is an order form. I mean, just like jump right in. I ended up going with a perfect bound book, which is this like more like solid. You tell them how many pages are going to be inside of this thing. Here's how much it's going to cost and when you can expect to receive it. Then you have paper type, satin, gloss, uncoated, and recycled uncoated. Then here you have similar options for the cover, satin, gloss, or uncoated, and then options for paper weight. Now, something to know, cover paper weight is different from interior paper weight. Cover paper is always thicker than the interior paper of the book. So even though the cover of this is 100 and the interior pages are 100, they have a different thickness to them. Then you have lamination options, and I went with the soft touch lamination. This has like a little more of like a matte kind of feeling to it. This is satin paper with that soft touch lamination on it, and fingerprints don't really show on it, as they would with like something that was glossy. Yeah, so I think soft touch lamination was a good choice for this. So this is what it looks like inside the app, inside of Mixam when you create a book. And obviously this is the outer cover here. And then the body pages are here. And all I really had to do was just upload those PDFs exported from InDesign. And the app just figured it all out for me. And it just laid out everything. And then when you upload everything, you can preview it or you can generate a PDF proof. So the next step in this process for me was, making a video about the zine, announcing its availability, and then putting it up for sale online. And that ended up being pretty simple and straightforward for me to do because my photography website is hosted by Squarespace. That's where I publish my images. And because Squarespace has e-commerce functionality built into it, I was able to set up a storefront, create a product, upload some images, write some copy, and then connect it to PayPal, connect it to Stripe. The thing that I found to be really interesting, the majority of people who purchased the book were redirected from my YouTube video that I created about it, but a very close second was direct. Those direct links are people who found out about the zine through my email newsletter. The number of people who subscribed to my YouTube channel, which at the time of this video we're like at 95,000, something like that. Much, much larger than the number of people who subscribed to my email newsletter. And yet the email newsletter performed incredibly well. There's no direct way to get in touch with people, at least not yet, on YouTube. And so it's really important to own your audience and to own that data so that, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen to YouTube or anything else in the future? And if you lose that audience, that could be detrimental. I'd never sold anything through Squarespace before, and it was my first time, and it was super easy. It went off without a hitch. I was very pleasantly surprised. It was awesome. So if you have an old, outdated website that could use a design refresh, or maybe you're, getting something new off the ground, whatever it is, head over to squarespace.com/Dominey and sign up for a free 30-day trial to check it out for yourself. And when you go live with your new website or register a new domain, use my last name, Dominey, as the coupon code to save 10%. Okay, so now let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, money.
Dollar bills, y'all.
So I printed 175 copies through Mixam. I got 25 additional copies just in case there's any misprints or problems, which is a thing. And I just wanted a few extra copies for myself and family and stuff like that. And I put 150 up for sale through Squarespace, again, with free shipping, $25 each, and plus $10 flat fee for international shipping on top of that. So gross revenue just from that, $3,775 just from sales of the zine itself, 150 copies, plus an additional $390 for international shipping, which brings us to gross revenue of $4,165, which is pretty cool, right? Well, obviously there were some costs involved, so let's get into that. Okay, first, processing fees. So this is like credit card transaction fees. Squarespace's cut of selling products through their platform. That came out to $239.66. Then there was the cost of printing, just printing the books through Mixam. That came to $866. $2,280.66. That includes, by the way, tax and shipping. And I think shipping was like $55, something like that. And now sourcing mailing supplies was a little tricky because I intended to use Uline. I've used Uline a bunch of times in the past. They were going to charge me, I think it was like $75 for shipping. So I ended up buying all of my mailing supplies through Amazon. Even though the supplies were more expensive through Amazon, the net, result was less than ordering through Uline. Then there's postage. Now I don't have a final price on postage because I haven't shipped every single zine, but if I have an update on that, I'll put a comment down below. But right now it looks like it's going to be about $777.30, which finally brings us to a net profit of $2,085.04, which is awesome, right? I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. But there is one more thing to take into account. Like if we were to just stand back and take a look at this from let's say like a business accounting perspective. Like if you were working with an accountant on this, they would probably say, what were all of your expenses? Add up all of your expenses that were incurred as part of this project. Well, if we did that, my Airbnb while I was out there cost me $1,261, and I by no means stayed in a super nice place. I stayed in like a tiny home, like, behind someone's house. My airfare was $547.80. And my rental car while I was there was $344.56. And I'm not including meals and things like that because, I would be eating anyway, like whether I was there or not. So if we add up those three things, well, that brings us to a final net profit of, well, actually, there is no profit. I ended up losing $68.32. So when you think about it that way, I actually lost money. And it doesn't take a business degree to know that if your expenses exceed your revenue, well, you're not going to be in business very long, right? I mean, it's impossible to stay in business. And any business manager or accountant or whatever would, look at something like that and they would say, yeah, whatever that thing is that you did, don't do that again, because that is a money losing, thing to do. But, creative projects like these are kind of a funny thing because unless there is a company behind the scenes that is paying for it or you're able to like sell it, to a publication, something like that, it is a self-funded practice. It is something that you put up the money for yourself. And I don't know how many of you have thought about this before, but anytime you look at a photographer's portfolio, and if they have images in there from like far-flung destinations like Greenland and or at least far-flung for me, Greenland, Iceland, Faroe Islands, South Africa, wherever it is in the world that they went to take these images, they most likely incurred quite a bit of expense getting there, staying there, getting around while they're there. I mean, there's all these sunk costs, not to mention the cost of camera gear and all the associated things that go along with it. Photography can be such an expensive thing, especially shooting landscapes, right? I mean, because unless you happen to live in an area where you have just, loads of things to photograph within a 50-mile radius of your house, well, you have to travel. You have to get out there. You have to go places and, spend money in order to be creating those images. But obviously there are ways in which that cost can be offset. One way being, of course, doing this, producing a YouTube channel, earning money from AdSense, advertising, affiliate marketing, sponsorships. Someone could make prints, they could do workshops, they could do like an online course, downloads, digital downloads, that kind of stuff. That's something that I also do. So it's kind of like all these multiple individual small revenue streams that eventually kind of, add up to something. And honestly, for me, like if I'm just able to cover the cost of going out, and creating images and doing what it is that I love to do and going out and creating new work, that's the goal. Like, this is not like, the kind of thing that I think anyone in their right mind would get into for the purposes of making like a lot of money for like, banking, big checks or anything like that. Like, that's not just going to happen unless you're like, I don't know, like who would be a good, like Peter Lick, like somebody like Peter Lick, no disrespect to Peter Lick, but Peter Lick is very successful at this, right? I mean, if you don't know who I'm talking about, definitely go over and check out his website. Yeah, he's very successful. He's very successful. Hats off to him, right? I mean, he's definitely found a way to do this successfully. But, for me, that's never really been, the lens that I've looked at this through. For me, it's more of a long-term thing. It's like a long-term investment, an investment in my photography, an investment in myself, an investment in, let's be honest, like an investment in my mental health and well-being as well. I mean, in a lot of ways, it keeps me sane. So yeah, I mean, and you can't really put a monetary dollar amount on that. At least I don't think you can. So at the end of the day, really, I mean, more than anything to me, the thing that I get the greatest satisfaction out of is just knowing that people care, right? I mean, it's just knowing that, people took an interest in something that I was interested in, and that I, was able to share something that people enjoyed and were inspired by, and were willing to support, and were willing to purchase. And that for me means more than anything else, honestly, at the end of the day. And this also, for me, I mean, it kind of, points the way towards doing more things like this, and finding more ways to, help support, the work that it is that I'm doing, whether that's producing another zine or, perhaps something else. But it, it definitely kind of opens that door to something else. So for me, it's been great. If you are someone who's in a similar situation to me, if you are a photographer and you've thought about, maybe doing something like this, I mean, just printing something in and of itself, and not just looking at your images all the time on screen, is such a big thing. Even if you print just one for yourself, it's not going to cost you that much. And I think I don't know, for me, it's just a very satisfying thing to do. Even if you don't have any interest in selling and shipping and all that kind of stuff, like, don't worry about all of that. Just, make a book for yourself. I mean, just make one for you, and maybe a few copies for your, for your family and whatnot, and just enjoy it more than anything, because this has been a really enjoyable and just creatively satisfying thing for me to do, and I very much want to do it again. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and for sponsoring videos on my channel. I greatly appreciate it. Again, this is part of the topic of this video. Having sponsors like them is a pretty big deal, because it helps support creative work like this, and I greatly appreciate their involvement and their support of what it is that I do. And thank you to you as well, because every time you watch a video on my channel, it obviously is another way of helping me, cover expenses and continue to do what it is that I'm doing. So that's it. Thanks so much, everyone. If you have a comment, anything you want to share, please remember to leave a comment down below. And if you want to subscribe and hang out with me again in the future, by all means, please feel free to do so down below. Hope this video was helpful, everyone, and I will see you next time.